Final few boards being shown. Now the red light is on, most with headlights on as well, and a good launch from Sean Traynor, who is able to get a full car length ahead. And in fact, if Neil Stratton's not careful, he might lose out on second position here to a hard charging Adam Lockwood. Lockwood down the inside and doesn't quite get second position, but it was nip and tuck. Fourth and fifth are right together as well, but there's all sorts of carnage in behind, and the 76 car is off the road big style, losing both front and rear bumpers. That is Martin Auger. It could have been a lot worse than that. I saw far more cars off, but I think everybody else has managed to find the hard stuff again.
Yeah, even Traynor was over the edge of the track on that first corner. The Stratton's recovered well there. He didn't have the best launch, and he was in the wrong part of the track really at the first corner, but he's come out of it well enough in second, and now the race will get going proper. We've got the 76 car has rejoined the circuit, but trailing its front bumper.
Yeah, I think the rear bumper is pretty loose on that car as well, though, so there is a danger for the rest of the lap that Martin Auger's splitter might actually go underneath the front wheels if he's not careful, and then it will be very much a skateboard. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that car coming into the pits at the end of this first lap, and if he does decide to persist, then the mechanical warning flag might be heading his way as well. Meantime, leaders right together, and Stratton thought about a last-ditch manoeuvre on the first lap, if that's possible, into Hislops, but stays in the wheel tracks of Sean Traynor, who is leading both in the standard points and also then when you factor in drop scores. 5:11 for the main points, 4:37 when you take away his worst. Is it likely to be 2 results that you get deleted? Yeah, 2 results in MR2s. And Traynor then leading Lockwood, whereas in the overall points, Traynor leads Stratton, the car right in behind by 3, as Stratton has a bit of a squirm coming out of Druids. Windscreen wipers working overtime, and working out which bit of the track to use is tough as well. We became used in the earlier race to how much the cars were moving around, mid-engine, rear-wheel drive, and therefore the weight is sometimes in all the wrong places.
Absolutely, but it looks neat and tidy. Maybe the top 3 are just more or less sizing each other up in this early going, rather than really getting into it like we saw in the first race. Very different lines between the two. Traynor pushing the wider parts of the circuit, and Stratton looking for grip nearer the middle, because there's kind of a seam in the track. Oh, a big moment there for the 4th place car of Jim New. Held on to it well, dragged one rear wheel through the mud, so that's a measure of how sideways he was at the time. Maxie Nichols lost some time on that early lap. She's trying to make her way back through in the 17 car against the Aaron Laverty Class B vehicle.
So, first lap completed. These lap times, I wonder whether they're comparable to, well, we will know that for sure at the end of the first proper racing lap, comparable to earlier on when the fastest lap was set by Sean Traynor in race 1 to give him pole position for this second race. Stratton wasn't that far away. Well, actually, it was a reasonable distance. From fastest lap perspective, almost a second. So it just showed you the dominance that Sean Traynor was able to have. But there was that one very good lap for Neil Stratton, which put him on the front row for this second race. Still plenty of rainfall around. You can tell that from some of the lenses on our cameras around the track.
Yeah, Stratton's looking racy here. He's using a lot more of the curbs and more of the limits of the circuit without going over. Lockwood just either not quite the pace to get involved or just keeping an eye out, really, because it looks like Traynor's been a little bit more cautious than the 2 chasers.
Maybe the best seat in the house here is to be Adam Lockwood, just watching it all unfold. He hasn't got the threat of anybody in behind because 4th and 5th are slightly more distant, heading up Clay Hill. And then a nice little trio come next, a bit like the 1st, 2nd and 3rd place cars. So 2 for 4th and 5th, and then you've got 6th, 7th and 8th absolutely nose to tail. They're heading now through towards Druids, 4th and 5th in the background initially. They're going to fan out almost Formula Ford style here, and sticking to the middle of the road is Traynor. Was it Neil Stratton who pulled off an overtake earlier on in the day around the outside of Lodge Corner? We've certainly seen it done. So Stratton, the problem with that move is it leaves you very vulnerable on the exit, because the car you're trying to overtake can inch you over the curb and potentially into the mud, and there's no way coming back from that. So certainly Stratton will feel he's quicker at certain parts of this track. Nice little late dive down the inside from Ed Brook, which nearly came off at the Jim Mew's expense. So Scott Edbrook is certainly revved up from his earlier exploits. That it didn't go too well in race 1. He has actually lost a place in this one as well, with Jim getting in front, but Edbrook keen to reverse that and hope that the top 3 are not far enough in front to catch.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the lines of these two. Whether Stratton's going to these narrower lines to try and get out of the spray a little bit, or he's finding some joy with the grip. He certainly seems to have a small advantage in pace over Trainer at the moment, and Trainer's now adopting those narrower lines as well, so perhaps he used his mirrors to see why the other two were catching him a little bit. Certainly been doing this long enough and well enough to be able to pick these things up from his rivals. But Stratton's very good through this section. He uses a lot more of the curb typically, and it does seem to be working.
Yeah, the curb gives him a bit of an advantage in the corner, but then the drive off it's not so good because the car's not flat, so two wheels up the curb, sometimes just that imbalance will cost you very small amounts of time, whereas Trainer is deliberately staying, well, saying that, he did rather whack the curb at Hislops, but on the whole, he's keeping the car level, and that does seem to be working for him. How much curb on the exit of Knickerbrook? Not too much at all. Lots actually from the third place car of Adam Lockwood, who again has a good run up the hill, and just trying to assess the speed of those two cars ahead, but they remain in the same order. Meanwhile, Ed Brook is now ahead of Jim Mew and clearing off, so maybe Ed Brook thinks all is not lost in catching this leading trio.
Yeah, I mean, if they start getting into each other and defending and what have you, that 5-second gap will disappear quickly. Big slide for Ed Brook on the exit of Druids. He's certainly trying again.
I don't think there was ever going to be any doubt in that somehow. His driving style will stand out for, well, live long in the memory, I suppose, in that first race, because it was all over the place, but I think that's how he likes to drive in the wet. And the car was moving around a great deal in several of the braking areas. He has cleared off from Jim Mew now in that 4th place. So the top 3 will have to be wary of the 53 car getting pretty large in the mirrors in the next few minutes. We're already at half distance though, so Scott Edbrook has not got all the time in the world. Stratton showing signs of maybe going down the inside at Cascades there. He was close enough. Sean Trainer should still be leading, but that was a close affair, as is this one at Deer Leap. 3 cars together and they will cross the line. Just trying to work out which cars they were. 72 involved. So that is O'Brien in 14th position, and he is right with the number 17 car of Maxi Nichols. So Nichols, O'Brien and Crow right together for 13th, 14th and 15th.
Yeah, battles all up the field there. We've got the number 20 car making a move at turn 1. That is just off my screen, actually. That's Patrick Stoner making a move at turn 1. Stratton's wide on the chicane there that time. That's going to allow Lockwood a run in towards Hislops, and Trainer just a little bit of breathing room on this lap.
Again, different approaches being made. It was the case for the first few laps as well. Lockwood to the outside line as Stratton tries to get the better of Trainer out front. A squirm from the front this time of Trainer's car, but they all carry good mid-corner speed through Knickerbrook, so the exit's equidistant. Need to be still keeping an eye on Scott Edbrook and whether he's made ground. If he has, it's marginal. It was 6 and a bit seconds to the race leader last time through. As again, here and there, a bit of misting happening, particularly on Adam Lockwood's rear screen, and that will start to be a problem probably in the front screen as well in the not too distant future. Big movement again from Neil Stratton's car, a little bit like Jamie Hadley's Golf in the previous Enduro race. Does seem like there's quite a bit of standing water in the middle of the track as you reach Lodge, the final corner.
Yeah, Stratton still trying these narrow approaches. It does seem to be working in terms of the lap time, but it's not allowing him a big run at Trainer, who's just neat and tidy on the entry and making sure he's got the car planted to drive out. It's quite a measured drive from Sean Trainer, who has now given up the fastest lap to Scott Edbrook, who's gone by in a 2:20.0. So we're about 4 seconds slower than this morning, showing the conditions probably worse than last time.
And other drivers doing their best lap of the race. Stratton in second, Lockwood in third, and intriguingly, you look at the times just done, and they're in the reverse order. So, i.e., the fastest driver out there is fourth, the next fastest driver is third, the next fastest driver is second, and the slowest car out there of those four is Trainer. So it's all concertinaing up, which is promising for the final 2 or 3 minutes, really, the final lap potentially. Looks at this stage that it might just be slightly out of Scott Edbrook's grasp. But if the two leaders, as it sort of is now, and a slightly more distant Adam Lockwood, if they start to slow one another up, then Edbrook could be back in the game, certainly for a podium.
That's Stratton's best drive out of the chicane there. He was very aggressive on the approach. Probably not close enough to think about the move this time, but wants to be slotting in for a nice drive out of Knickerbrook because he's very quick on the entry to Druids. Carries a lot of speed in on a very narrow line. Trainer, again, just neat and tidy. The car's not moving too much. He's just placing it well and just keeping that 1 or 2 car lengths gap that's just a bit too much to be daredevil with on the brakes from behind.
Lockwood with arguably his best exit so far out of Knickerbrook and up the hill, but he's presented with an MR2 wall. No chance to get by either of those cars, even to overlap the tail of Stratton's car. So they're still in the same order. Edbrook may be marginally faster again, but it is tenths of seconds, and he needs to find 5 or certainly 4 in order to be closer to Adam Lockwood. And with the end of this one, 2 more to go, that's going to be a bit too much of an ask as the leaders stream across the line again. This time Neil Stratton is the fastest out there, although we haven't had an Edbrook time yet. No, it's not quite as good. So 2:19.7 from the race leader, 2:19.7 from Stratton, but slightly quicker. 2:19.8 and a 2:20.0 from the next 2 cars. They've all found basically the optimum pace of a Toyota MR2 Roadster in these conditions, and now it's very, very tough to overtake.
Yeah, the lead 2 just seems to drop Lockwood in this first part of the lap this time. Stratton's close, but not really close enough to look, especially not at a quick corner like Ireland. But let's see what kind of drive he gets around there. He's narrower again. He's cutting distance off the Trainer car. A close battle at the final corner between the 72 and 88 car, I think that was. That's down in for 14th place between Tim O'Brien and Jason Crow. Across the line, side by side, that battle's going to continue to turn 1. Crow thinks better of it and slots in to have another go later on.
Yeah, still scope for that to change, most definitely. So Sean Trainer on course at the moment for another win and another sequential win as well. Made it 3 out of the last 3 earlier on, and now with the scope of getting a quartet on the bounce, but Neil Stratton quicker than him with, what was that, 2 laps or so to go. There'll be 1 more after this, and Stratton's exit again is very good, but there's no opportunity to get by or at least level with Sean Trainer as they head towards Water Tower on lap 6. First, second, third underneath the trees. Still in the same order then. That brilliant white of Sean Trainer's car started the race like that. It's getting significantly more muddied now because of the bits of Oulton Park scenery slowly being brought onto the racetrack. Again, a big wag of the tail from Scott Edbrook in the distance, but he's making the time pay and could be even closer this time because these 3 so close to one another are not at optimum pace.
No, and that was the first lap we saw Trainer go really defensive at the chicane, so that's going to cost all of that top 3 a bit of time. Stratton, though, had to go on the defensive from Lockwood just to give Trainer a little breathing room. A big wiggle from Edbrook into turn 1. He's not given up. He's took a second out of the lead trio that lap, so still trying and rewarded with the fastest lap for doing so.
And he was best part of 4 tenths quicker than all 3 cars ahead of him that time. 2:19.4 is a significant shift. He's just going to run out of laps, unfortunately, and paying somewhat perhaps for what happened earlier on, although arguably, because this grid was based on fastest lap times, it was less damaging than it might have been had it been from a race result earlier, when he finished 9th. It might have been better had it been based on the second fastest qualifying times, but that's not down to anything he has to do. It's how the regulations are written after all. And to start from 4th position, he has maintained that spot for the opening 15 minutes because the clock is now at 0. This therefore has to be the final lap, and although it's threatening to change at any moment, it hasn't done to this point, so Sean Traynor just needs to keep doing what he's doing.
Yeah, well, we'll see this. Stratton's been so close so many laps, it's actually harder to carry any momentum past the car ahead of you. So this little gap that's been in the first half might help him sort of almost slingshot his way past Traynor if he's got anything left in the tank to do so, because that gap's come down from what looked like about a second midway through the lap to being back down to 2 car lengths. So perhaps backing himself up towards Druids here on this run up the hill might give him a better drive towards the final corner and one more lunge if there is one to come.
Well, it's been attempted already today. That was for 2nd place in the previous endurance race. Didn't go so well for Jamie Hadley. And there's slightly less water now on the approach to Lodge Corner, but Stratton for me isn't quite close enough. Lockwood is maybe a few inches closer to Stratton in turn, but they're going to work their way through Lodge Corner and stay in the same order for the podium. So it is 4 wins from 4, and that's now 6 for the year, isn't it, for Sean Traynor? So he's in a real rich vein of form, making it work a treat. Neil Stratton falls short by 0.7 of a second from Adam Lockwood in 3rd, and just about the best that Scott Edbrook could manage from that race to finish in 4th position ahead of Jim Mew and Andrew Baranowski. Class B won by Andrew Ruthven for the 2nd time today from the Sylvester car, number 37, Dan Sylvester, finishing 7th in class and 8th overall. Then a Class B car again of Vera Aldridge in 65 and Howarth in a Class C car, completing the top 10. Still waiting for the final few runners to head across the line. I've just noticed that, sadly, Martin Collins wasn't in this race, even though took a class victory, admittedly the only car in the class earlier in the day, but it doesn't look like Martin was able to start that race for whatever reason. Final few runners coming through, and this has been an entertaining scrap as well between O'Brien, Crowe and Dales, and it will be Tim O'Brien to just about win it from Jason Crowe. So that wasn't a class battle as such, but it was for 11th, 12th and 13th in Class C, 14th, 15th, 16th overall, and they certainly found one another, had somebody to race with, and I'm sure we'll be grinning very much at the end of 15 minutes of relentless action. A wave to the marshals once again to acknowledge their part in this, which we have done all day, and thanks again for your quick repairing of the track as well, whether you've been involved with that. I think marshals down at Old Hall Corner will certainly know that they've had a day's racing and repairing. And oh, brilliant, they damaged both front and rear car of Williams that had the spin. Andy Williams early in the peak. No, that was Auger, wasn't it? Number 72, number 76 rather. Auger. Martin Auger getting to the finish. So here is the confirmation of the result, and again Sean Traynor may well take some stopping at Donington Park if his current form is anything to go by, but Neil Stratton and Adam Lockwood will certainly do their level best to outscore them in Leicestershire. Scott Edbrook in number 53 finishing in 4th ahead of Jim Mew and Andrew Baranowski, and the Class B winner was Andrew Ruthven. From other class finishers in that division, Aldridge and Heron.
If you ever weren't sure if Sean Traynor was maybe just measuring his performance there, he did smash in the fastest lap right at the death.
Oh, so yeah, good point.
2:19.0, a maximum points haul from that race. When we were talking about him being under pressure, and maybe he was just holding everybody by the forehead with his palm, letting them swing.
Perhaps that is a good little image there that you paint in people's minds. Yeah, there's an ability sometimes for drivers in certain championship years to just do enough, do what they do. But the thing is, he's not just outscoring his rivals, he's winning races as well. So getting maximum points hauls, which will be huge heading into the final couple of races. So that is the Road Motorsport Toyota MR2 Championship done for the day at Oulton Park. We will shortly be hearing, we hope, from Sean Traynor and potentially others as well. And then we can turn our attention to the final 3 races on the bill this weekend at Oulton Park. But speak of the devil, here's Kieran Mogg with the race winner.
Thank you very much. Yes, we've got Sean Traynor, Neil Stratton and Adam Lockwood all down here. You can see there just how happy Sean is as he gets out of the car just to have a quick chat with Neil there. That's a fantastic battle between the two of them. Sean, just jump in here a second. You had to defend for your life on that one.
Yeah, no, I didn't want... I wanted to push as hard as I could, and I thought at one point I sort of a few times I made a little break, only by about probably a second or so, and I thought, oh, that's enough, and then he just came back, and it wasn't I was making mistakes. As I just said, I think he was probably, when you're out in front, you don't know what you're going to come across, so it's sort of, I didn't want to go and chuck it off, and I thought, as long as I can get good runs out of the corners, which I seem to, I didn't make any mistakes, which is quite a rarity for me this season, to be fair. But I knew Neil doesn't make mistakes either, so I knew that if I made one, he'd have been there to capitalise. So I just thought, just drive it. When I see the last lap board, it was probably the happiest last lap board I've seen all year.
I'm not surprised, but obviously 2 wins from 2. You clearly do well in these conditions.
Yeah, I do like it, but to be fair, I used to really like it in the old Mark II, where these are a bit more sketchy, but it's these two, because they seem to be able to deal with it as well. So, but no, good day.
100%. Well, congratulations, 2 from 2.
Thanks.
Cheers, thank you. Let's have a quick chat with Neil's. Neil, we saw then, you were just doing different lines every single lap, just trying to find a different advantage or not. It looked quite difficult.
Yeah, the grip was not on the dry racing line. Probably Sean was always on that line because that's where the grip was. And I was conscious that Adam was behind me, and if I tried anything, he's just going to be down the inside of me. So a bit boring, but play it safe, and you just get a good result out of it. So
yeah, 100%. Do you think there's anything more you could have done?
I had one little bit of the sniff round Lodge, but to be fair, I think Sean had it well covered. So.
Well, still 2 from 2 podiums, so he couldn't ask for much more.
No, that's it. Two good results. The car's in one piece off Donington next, so should be good.
Absolutely, congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
Cheers, thanks. Have a quick chat with Adam before we quickly float. Sorry, Neil. Just very quick. Obviously, you basically did you get the popcorn out?
Yeah, well, it was one of those. It was any move that any of us would have pulled would have been a bit of a kamikaze move. So I think we all just decided, there's a couple of little bits where we were going to try something, and then we just all sort of thought, no, we'll just sit here. Probably really boring to watch. It was all right in the car, but yeah, it's one of those. We all thought the better of silly moves. So,
well, still 2 podiums from 2 races. Congratulations.
Yeah, that'll do. I'll take that today.
Congratulations. Cheers. Thank you very much. All right, now we've got cars out on the track. That is it for the MR2s, but that's not all the racing. Back to you guys.